Nobody believes you about him. Why would they? He has never once raised his voice. Not in 9 years. Everyone who meets him tells you how lucky you are, and you cannot explain to anybody why you feel like you are losing. That is the covert narcissist, the quiet one. No yelling, no bragging, no obvious cruelty, and somehow the whole house arranges itself around one person's mood anyway. There is nothing to point at. And I need you to understand something before we go one step further. That is not an accident. That is the design. You are not crazy. You are not ungrateful. You are not too sensitive to live with a calm person. If you have spent years trying to describe this and coming up empty, the problem was never your memory or your attitude. The problem is that this version of narcissism is built to leave no evidence. And by the end of this video, you will be able to see every moving part. Here's the picture you were handed instead, and it is only half a picture. The internet taught you that a narcissist is loud. The guy at the party talking about his money. The woman posting her own crying face. The boss taking credit in the meeting while everyone stares at the table. That picture is not wrong. It is one half of something. The other half is sitting in the corner at the same party, saying almost nothing, and going home certain that everybody there treated them badly. Both halves want the exact same thing. Only one of them asks for it out loud. The loud version costs people their patience. The quiet version costs people their grip on what actually happened. So here is the plan. 5 things the covert version does. In the order they happen, each one making the next one possible. The last one is the reason people stay for a decade and cannot explain the decade afterward. And one of the 5 is going to sit a little too close to home. That is the one worth staying for. It starts where you would never look. It starts with generosity. Picture a Sunday. Somebody has cooked for 11 people, refused all 4 offers of help, and is now doing the dishes alone, slightly too loudly, while everybody else sits down. Nobody asked for that. It happened anyway. And for the rest of the evening, the whole room is quietly in debt. An analyst named Otto Fenichel, writing back in the 1930s, coined the term narcissistic supply for the steady stream of attention and reassurance a certain kind of person needs to keep their sense of self standing. Most people hear that and picture applause. Applause is the loud version. The quiet version runs on something far easier to farm, being needed. And here is how you tell it apart from real kindness, because the difference shows up in exactly one place. Real generosity is finished when the thing is done. This is never finished. It gets referenced next week, next month, in an argument about something else entirely. Think of it like a free app that quietly becomes a subscription. You never signed anything. The billing started anyway. And to be fair to the person doing it, almost none of this is planned. That is the part people get wrong. There is no evil scheme. There is a hole, and cooking for 11 people fills it for about 4 hours. But here the important part, the debt you feel around this person is manufactured. You do not actually owe what you feel you owe. And being needed only works while there is something to be needed for. So watch what happens when the room stops handing it over. When supply runs low, the loud narcissist gets bigger. The quiet one gets smaller. An American psychiatrist named James Masterson described what he called the closet narcissist. Somebody with the same core need to be special, who cannot stand to be seen wanting it, and so goes after it sideways. Sideways sounds like this. Not, I am the best. Instead, nobody appreciates how much I do. Not, look at me. Instead, I guess I will just sit here by myself then. It is a claim to being special wearing a humility costume, and it is almost impossible to argue with, because arguing with it proves their point. Watch it land in a real room. A birthday dinner, 8 people. Somebody tells a story and gets a big laugh. The quiet one says, very softly, must be nice to be the funny one. 6 words, no accusation anywhere in them. And the temperature at that table drops 10 degrees. And for the rest of the night, everybody is careful. That is an entire room being steered by a person who technically did nothing. The fuel underneath it is always the same. Sympathy. Every family has one story about somebody who got wronged years ago and never got over it. For most people, that story fades because wounds heal badly, but they heal. Here, the story is load-bearing. It is doing structural work. It explains the coldness, the withdrawal, the comment at the birthday dinner. It also means nothing they do afterward can count as harm Because in their story, harm is a thing that happens to them, never a thing they do. But sympathy is a slow currency, and eventually somebody stops paying. That is when you meet the third thing. The punishment that is not a punishment. Heinz Kohut, a psychoanalyst working in Chicago, published a landmark book in 1971 about what he called narcissistic injury. A small slight lands on this kind of person not as an insult, but as structural damage. In the loud version, the injury comes out as rage. In the quiet version, it comes out as absence. You know this one from the inside. A mild disagreement on a Tuesday about something genuinely small. Then the room goes quiet. No slammed doors, short answers, a kitchen entered and left without a word. 2 words where there used to be 20, it lasts 3 days. And none of it can be raised, because the moment you say, I feel like I am being punished, you get told nobody is doing anything. Which is technically true, and entirely the point. The silence is not the absence of a message. The silence is the message. Then comes the tell, and I want you to watch for it, because it is the whole mechanism in one moment. The 3 days do not end with a conversation. They end with a completely normal question about whether there is milk. And the 3 days are never mentioned again. Not that night, not ever. Bring them up a week later, and you are dragging things up. That is how a person learns to stop bringing anything up at all. Meanwhile, look at what it has done to you. You have started forecasting. You test sentences in your head before saying them out loud. You check plans against a mood that has not happened yet. You write 2 versions of a text and send the safer one. From the outside, it looks like a calm household. Nobody is fighting. Somebody is managing. And the exhausting thing you cannot explain to your friends is that you are doing 2 people's emotional weather reports every day, alone. Now the fourth thing, and this one matters because it is the only part that is not a performance. The skin is genuinely thin. In 1991, a psychologist named Paul Wink went back through the main narcissism tests. Psychologists were using and found they were not measuring one thing at all. They split cleanly in 2. One factor was grandiosity, the loud face. The other was vulnerability and hypersensitivity, the quiet face. Same engine. Opposite paint job. A few years later, researchers Hendon and Cheek built a scale aimed specifically at the hypersensitive face because the standard tests kept missing these people completely. Missing them completely. Which tells you most of what you need to know about how well this version hides. In your daily life, it looks like this. You make a neutral comment about the groceries arriving late. It is not heard as a comment about groceries. It is heard as an accusation of failure. What comes back is not proportionate to groceries. Everyone in the room can feel it, and nobody can say it. Think of a smoke alarm that goes off every time somebody makes toast. The alarm is not lying. It really did detect something. It is just calibrated for a house that is permanently on fire. And here, I will push back on the internet a little. Being sensitive was never the problem. Plenty of people are thin-skinned, say so plainly, and are easy to love. What makes this version hard is not the sensitivity. It is that the sensitivity arrives with a bill, and you are always the one who pays it, which produces the 5th thing, the one that outlasts the relationship by years. You become the villain in a story you have never heard. Not through lies. Lies are what everybody expects, and lies are checkable. This works through selection. Over the years, a sister hears about the time you were short on the phone. A coworker hears you can be difficult when you are tired. A neighbor hears about one bad Christmas. Nobody hears anything untrue. Nobody hears the other 99 days either. It is a slideshow, built one slide at a time, shown only to people who will never see the full reel. So when the relationship finally ends, the reaction from the outside is not the one you prepared for. People are surprised, some are cold, a few pick a side, and it is not your side. And you cannot correct any of it without sounding exactly like the person the slideshow described. There is usually one moment where you see the edge of it. A cousin at a wedding says something offhand about how hard the last few years must have been for him. And the sentence does not match one single thing that actually happened in those years. That is the first evidence you get that a second version of your life has been running the whole time, told carefully, in pieces small enough that nobody ever compared notes. Most people never even get that moment. They just notice, slowly, that certain friends stopped calling, and nobody ever said why. Now stop, because everything I have said stays true only if you are honest about one thing. Think about the last time you were genuinely hurt by somebody and you told other people about it. You were probably accurate. It probably happened the way you said. But there are two versions of what you were doing. In the first, you needed a witness. You said it out loud. Somebody heard it, and something in you settled. In the second, you were installing an obligation, quietly making it known that you had been wounded, so people would be careful with you, and being careful with you would become their job. From the outside, those two look identical. Same words, same voice, same friend nodding. From the inside, they also feel identical, because both of them feel like honesty. I cannot settle that for you, and neither can a comment section. Just notice that both readings exist. And notice which one you wanted to be true before you finished the thought, because every single move in this video is an ordinary human move, a kindness that expects something back, a hurt held a little too long, a silence doing the job of a sentence. Everybody does all of it sometimes. The difference between doing these things and being this is whether there is ever a day off. Most people do this on a bad Tuesday and feel dumb about it by Thursday. For the covert narcissist, it is the operating system, and there is no quieter version underneath that switches on once the room finally feels safe. So put the 5 on the table, a favor that never finishes, a claim to being special, made downward instead of upward, a silence with a job to do, an alarm calibrated for a fire that went out years ago, and a slideshow shown to everyone but you. That is why you could never explain it. There was no scene to describe, no yelling, no bruise, no single Tuesday you could hand to a friend and have them say, yes, that is bad. Just 9 years of managing somebody else's moods, and a person at the end of it who cannot figure out why they are so tired. So, let me say the thing nobody has said to you plainly. You were not too sensitive to live with a quiet man. You were exhausted from doing 2 people's weather reports every day for 9 years. That tiredness is not a flaw in you. It is the receipt. This one was for the people still in it, and for the people who just now, finally, found the word.